Well, y'all, this is Spencer Keck with the Hillbilly Think Tank. I am the educated hillbilly. And no, that's not an oxymoron. Don't call me a moron. There have been educated, emancipated, and erudite hillbillies ever since Daniel Boone and my ancestors came through the Cumberland Gap years and years ago. Y'all, I'm coming at you live from central Kentucky here in Hardin County, where we are dedicated to the promise of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, anything else that takes us away from that promise, that's just meant to divide us, and we're not here to be divided. Y'all, we know that AI data centers are horrible for the environment, and they place an unbearable burden on the electrical infrastructure that is paid for by the consumer, not the AI data centers. But currently, there is a bipartisan effort underway to push back against this growing danger of AI data center proliferation. Now, the rural state of Maine is firing the first shot in this battle. So, the movies Terminator and others that have continuously warned us about the impending dangers of AI and, of course, for that matter, robots that are powered by AI. They were meant not just to entertain, but to truly, inform us of some real dangers that are coming. But, it seems like now there's far too much money being made for folks to really care, except some of us are. And it's a bipartisan group that is actually caring and pushing back.
To an AI data center where you can hear.
This is extremely loud right now.
And feel.
This can blow dry my hair.
The power.
The AI is in there.
By 2028, Data centers like this across the country could use 12% of all US electricity, enough to power more than 55 million homes for a year. And yes, you are increasing that energy. Every time you hit enter on an AI prompt, it's routed through places like this. Okay, let's start with tracing this prompt. Create a video of a dancing steak. The moment you hit enter, that request gets routed to a place like this massive building I visited in Ashburn, Virginia, aka Data Center Alley. When your prompt arrives at the data center, it kicks off inference, the process where the model thinks and responds to your request. Rows of powerful GPUs generate your request. In this case, the dancing steak. Back to my question. How much energy am I using every time I make that single image or video? So I plugged in this handy power meter to the grill, cranked up the heat, and threw a pretty thin steak on. Oh yeah. If you're generating text, that could burn anywhere from 0.17 watt hours to 2 watt hours, equal to running this grill for about 4 seconds. Generating an image, add 1.7 watt hours. All that less than 10 seconds on the grill. But short videos can use far more power. In tests of various open source models, videos took anywhere between 20 watt hours and 110 watt hours. At 110 watt hours, one steamed electric grill steak about equal to one video generation. I wouldn't eat it, but my dog would. At 220 watt hours, it was looking much more edible. So 2 video generations equals 1 pretty good looking steak. That might not sound like much power until you consider the short film we made using Google VO and Runway. We generated 1,008-second 720p clips for our film. Going by these estimates, we might have used roughly 110,000 watt hours. That's enough to grill around 478 steaks, or power an average US home for 3.5 days. But energy isn't the only concern. Water is used in big quantities to cool these hot GPUs. So what did we learn here today? Certainly that AI and GPUs draw huge amounts of power. And as AI demand grows, so will the size and number of these data centers. We saw several new ones already under construction in Data Center Alley. But the big question, is it worth it? Is that one silly video worth the same energy it takes to make a meal or charge a laptop? But it's not all fun and viral videos. That big GPU cluster we saw, it belongs to Bristol Myers Squibb, and it's being used to discover new drugs. Welcome to an AI data center where you can hear.
So, lots of electricity being used, and I say, for the most part, squandered, although there are definitely some good uses for it when you talk about medical breakthroughs. But the majority of what we're doing is not for medical breakthroughs. So, the question is, what else is a drawback to this? How much electricity are we using when we use AI to make decisions on the battlefield? And who is paying for that? How much water are we using when we use electricity to use AI on the battlefield? How much do you think the Pentagon is using? And it's widely known right now that all of the donors to the East Wing of the White House, they were doing those donations, making those donations in order to get access to underground of the White House. Yeah. Consider, why would all of the companies like ChatGPT, Amazon, all these others really donate all that much money to that White House East Wing project? Besides wanting to suck up and be sycophants, they were getting something out of it. And the president has said himself, they've built a big bunker and put a lot of computers down there. They've got, more than likely, an AI center down below the White House. Think about, what would they want to track with flock cameras and other things like that in these AI centers? If anybody has an idea, go ahead and raise your hand. I definitely have some ideas, and I don't like them. Well, so it's not just the water and electricity that we're squandering, but how much land are we wasting? How much farmland are we destroying with all of this AI center infrastructure? Sucking everything that we need for our electricity, and yet we're often paying the bills for this. So there is a state right now on the battlefront of pushing back against AI data centers. So that state is Maine. So think about Maine. It's about as rural as Kentucky, maybe more rural actually. And Maine is set to ban data centers, becoming the first state in the nation to do so. Legislation still requires the governor's signature to become law, but it represents a growing bipartisan concern among voters over potential energy rate hikes and water usage. And this is key. We pay for the electricity that they use. They hike our energy rates in order to pay for these data centers. And are you and I getting a tax break from it? Nope, not at all. So we've really got to consider what this is doing, right? What has been happening to Maine that they're pushing back on, right? So they're putting a moratorium on data centers with power needs of 20 megawatts or more, and they're pushing back against a plan, right, that was supposed to develop the former Loring Air Force Base in rural Limestone, Maine, near the Canadian border, supposed to have been developed into an AI data center. But hopefully this will go through and the rural folks there won't have to suffer, number one, besides using up massive amounts of water, they also poison massive amounts of natural water in springs. And what is Maine known for? Having some of the cleanest, largest reserves of fresh water in the United States. And they don't want to see this resource destroyed. It's one of the few aquifers that are untainted in the United States. So that's huge. All right. Well, let's just remind ourselves too of some of the other dangers that we've been warned about for years that come along with this and what we need to do to protect ourselves. We've been warned multiple times, over and over.
To be trusted with our homes, with our way of life, with our world. But did we design them to be trusted?
The rollout of USR's new generation of robot, the NS5, was marred by the death of designer Alfred Lanning.
Identify. Murder's a new trick for a robot. Respond.
I did not murder him!
We're gonna miss the good old days.
What good old days?
When people were killed by other people.
My robots don't kill people.
That thing threw somebody out of a window. Is that registering with you?
A robot cannot harm a human being.
You trust them if you want to.
We look to robots for protection. Imagine the loss of all that we've gained because of an irrational paranoia.
Does thinking you're the last sane man on the face of the earth make you crazy? Because if it does, maybe I am.
Maybe you can be looking in the shadows all the time.
You're on the inside. Help me find out what is wrong with these robots.
Dr. Lanning suggested robots might naturally evolve.
I was hoping to see you again, Detective. Think of me as your friend.
Why didn't you just hand the world over on a silver platter?
Maybe we did. We're on the eve of the largest robotic distribution in history. There'll be one robot to every 5 humans.
How many robots have ever committed a crime? How many robots in the world?
None.
There is no conspiracy. What this is one mistake.
Oh, hell no.
So, if you don't remember, again, that was another warning. And what is it that Elon Musk is doing right now? He is investing most of his assets in the development of robots just like that. This wonderful guy, Elon Musk, we can trust him, right? So, not only are we damaging our resources, the water, wasting electricity that should be used elsewhere, such as to heat and cool my home and your home, instead of making your rates go up like data centers do, we should be only using our electricity for our consumption, not for commercial consumption that we pay for. That's a huge deal. And it's not just one party saying this now. It's becoming a two-party understanding that, or bipartisan understanding that this is a major problem in the US and, worldwide. But we have the chance now to do something about it. All right. The other problem that we have to consider, and again, this is a whole part of the Terminator series. We've been warned many, many generations of Terminator that the AI is dangerous, that it will only grow increasingly dangerous if we don't put checks and balances on it. Have we opened up Pandora's box to where it's going to be impossible to put it back together again and close it up? That's a question we have to answer. The Iran case and evolution of AI and battlefield operations. So this article talks to us about how ChatGPT, and OpenAI are reshaping war and the decision-making aspect of the war, and even to executing war plans. So this current Iran and U.S. war has just showed us, the first AI war, it's not looking good for humankind. Drones are going to be far more effective than the most expensive weapons we have, except for nuclear weapons. And if we're going to allow AI to make decisions about the battlefield, who's to say next it won't be that they'll make decisions about nuclear launching and nuclear codes? And we've already found, scientists have done plenty of studies on this. AI currently, frequently, if given a scenario, they make a decision to wipe out the human race. And that's not just hyperbole. That's not just science fiction. That's a dystopian reality. And yet, who is doing anything to actually curb this? We know that we're on a race to beat China in the AI battle to greatness. But in my opinion, this is a great folly. So in order to beat China, are we both just going to race to allowing AI to control every aspect of our life, like the science fiction movies warned us? It appears that we are. So, we have not kept up pace with making ethical decisions about the use of AI, about the development of AI, and about the application of AI. And we're paying for it now. And it's only going to get worse. So, in the meantime, we know that during this war, Whiskey Pete Kegsbreath kicked out Anthropic and Claude from the Pentagon because they wanted the Pentagon wants Claude to be able to make decisions that the creators of Anthropic are not willing for AI to make. The Pentagon wants AI to make battlefield decisions and to make executions of battlefield plans. Again, the next thing to that will be deciding whether or not to launch a nuclear weapon based on an AI decision. And Anthropic the creators of Anthropic are having none of it. So what does Whiskey Pete Keg's Breath do? He demands that Anthropic AI be available for all purposes that the Pentagon has for it, and any purpose. And that included, again, the potential autonomous use of weapons and mass surveillance. And mass surveillance is the biggest thing that we know this administration wants to do. It's already tapping into flock cameras everywhere, from Lowe's, Home Depot, traffic cameras, you name it. Ring with Amazon. They're all allowing the government to use their cameras for AI surveillance of us. So Anthropic is pushing back. And they said that AI and its technology is not reliable enough for autonomous weapons, and that mass domestic surveillance is incompatible with democratic values. So we know that Whiskey Pete labeled them as a supply chain risk, and that's never been done in our U.S. history to an American company. We've only done that to Chinese goods and other countries that make things that we say, hey, we're not going to consume them in our military because we know that they're made by our enemy and they could be tapping into our resources virtually, if we allow them in. That's why in the military you can't plug in a USB drive, or you can't even plug in your phone, because they're made overseas and they could be used to surveil us. If you plug it into a DoD computer, you're in serious doo-doo. But never have we said this about a U.S. manufacturer. Now we are, because Anthropic refuses to go against democratic values, and they refuse to allow their product to be used for anti-democracy values. So what has happened to Anthropic in this meantime? Their value is skyrocketed. Americans realized, we're using AI a lot, and up till now, we've all just been blithely doing it without concern for our safety and our democracy. And we're happy to see a company actually thinking seriously about the ethics involved. Now, how does this relate to Kentucky? Well, we know that there is a farmer up in northern Kentucky, farm family, that has refused an enormous, ungodly amount of money to be given to them to buy their property so the data center can be built on it. It's going to take more courageous Kentuckians doing this, especially now that times are hard for our rural communities and our generational farmers. So while we are all still capable of thinking on our own, we need to get bipartisan support to put real regulations and real controls on AI before it's allowed to control us, in order to make for some people to turn a major profit while we suffer. All right, y'all. So in the meantime, what is it that you and I can do about it? Well, number one, we've really got to start calling and writing all of our representatives and telling them how concerning this is to us. All right, who do we have on here tonight? Looks like we got Tom on here. Tom, good to see you. Tom says several YouTube channels, including the civil rights. Is that it? YT? Is that means YouTube? Including the civil rights attorney, have covered the elderly woman in Tennessee who was arrested and taken to jail in North Dakota for defrauding a bank. Despite that, let's see if I can get that there. Yeah, she had never been outside of her home county in Tennessee, let alone in the bank in North Dakota. All right. Elderly woman. If you have, now I saw this one Tom's talking about on the news, right? Elderly woman accused of defrauding a bank in North Dakota, or at least it was an out-of-state place far away from Tennessee, even though she'd never been there, right? And there was a guy who was arrested based on AI telling house security that he had been banned from a casino. But again, it wasn't the right guy. So this is a danger, serious danger. And more companies are allowing AI to make their decisions for them and their security decisions for them. And they're allowing our government unfettered access to our private lives through flock cameras and through AI. This is a serious, serious situation. And unless we all do something about it together, it's not going to get better. And again, this isn't a left versus a right. This is a bipartisan understanding people are now developing and realizing we have to do something about it. And again, just remember that East Wing, it's a data center underneath. So this unfinished project was to develop a data center underneath the East Wing and also be a bunker for the president. So that's going to be interesting to see how this pans out now that a judge has put a squash on that project. So, all right. In the meantime, the war is ratcheting up. We're sending even more troops to the Middle East. You know, in case your regular news isn't reporting on it, it's happening. And we have got to start truly bringing back the war powers to Congress, like that's where they're supposed to be. But we just sent thousands of more troops to the Middle East with no oversight by Congress. Thousands of more troops to the Middle East. So the Pentagon sent in additional troops in the coming days as the Diaper Dawn administration attempts to pressure Iran into a deal that could end the week-long conflict there while considering the possibility of additional strikes or ground operations if a fragile ceasefire does not hold, U.S. officials said. So the forces moving in the region include about 6,000 troops aboard the aircraft carrier USS George H.W. Bush and several warships escorting it, said current and former officials. About 4,200 others with the Boxer Amphibious Readiness Group and its embarked Marine Corps Task Force, the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit, are expected to arrive near the end of the month. So the Prez is attempting to press the Iranian regime into reopening the Strait of Hormuz, which of course we know is that vital passage for Middle Eastern oil transiting the Persian Gulf, and it's supposed to end its nuclear program negotiations coming to an end with the vice president. But we know once those negotiations ended, that's just a sign that this is nowhere near the end. We're in serious, serious danger. And the world economy is not going to be able to bear this much longer. Right now, China is in serious demand for more power through, when I say power, I'm talking about their energy needs for power. And they're at a power shortage, energy power shortage, because of this crisis that we're creating. So that natural gas that they like to use to create a lot of their energy, along with the energy that they need to make and use with the petroleum. Yeah, if it gets critically low enough, that is the type of problem that pushed Japan into World War II. When we cut off their oil supply, that's when they turned into severe belligerents. And that pushed them, into attacking us after we did that. That was a much smaller country than China. And even though it had a very powerful military, it's nowhere near the power that China currently has compared to ours. It's a match, a highly worthy match. And fighting in the Middle Eastern front and in an enormous Asian front, that's not something this country is ready for, and not something this country voted for. Because remember, this was the no war president, and yet here we are being pushed into a war that no one is really asking for. At least very few people in the US that I know that aren't part of the Epstein elite want this war. So, all right, y'all. Hopefully, people are now coming to their senses. Apparently, this is pushing people over the edge more than the pedophile charges. It's funny what it is that gets some people to peel away, whereas pedophile charges didn't and wouldn't. Can't quite grasp how that can be, but it is. So this viral photo right here is not helping our greatest ally. If you haven't heard about this, and that was what was depicted in the previous meme I had, an Italian magazine has sparked controversy over featuring a photograph of an Israeli soldier on its cover, drawing sharp criticism from Israel's ambassador to Rome. The ambassador condemned the publication, stating that the image feeds stereotypes and constitutes a hate crime, escalating tensions over the editorial choice. So this photograph was taken in the West Bank by an Italian photographer, Peter Masturzo, and has fueled debate over media representation and the boundaries between artistic expression and political sensitivity. So while that's happening, still, like I said, many people are in an uproar, finally, over this president and his depicting himself as Jesus H. Christ. I'm just amazed that this is what actually has pushed some of them over the edge, instead of, hey, again, like this guy says, if you think Trump posting pictures of himself as Jesus was bad, waiting to hear about how he blank kids, right? But we know that didn't bother them. That wasn't anything at all to them. But, this picture is. Interesting. So, again, War Powers Act, Congress is still refusing to rein in the president and his ability just to willy-nilly go to war anywhere he chooses. What's the war of the month going to be? The war du jour. So right now, we have one courageous veteran that is pushing back, calling out Bone Spur Don on his, is it capabilities or incapabilities? Let's hear what she has to say.
I've come to the floor today as a United States Senator, of course, but also as a former soldier who served in uniform the last time a president rashly sent our men and women into an unjustified war in the Middle East. I spent nearly a year at Walter Reed Army Medical Center, recovering from the injuries I earned in Iraq. And every morning, as I struggled to sit up straight, every time I was rolled into yet another surgery, I made sure to read the poster I had next to my hospital bed. It was a framed copy of the Soldier's Creed, the words that those lucky enough to wear the Army uniform live by. That same framed copy now hangs by my desk here in DC. And as I glanced at it this morning, I realized that there's perhaps no greater proof that Donald Trump never deigned to serve a day in his life than the mockery he makes of the Soldier's Creed's commitments every single day he has been in office.
So let's read just a few lines from this. I had a sailor's creed, but she's reading off her creed, so we'll go with it. I am an American soldier. I am a warrior and a member of a team. I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. That's only half of it, but you get the gist.
The creed may be associated with the Army, but the sentiments hold true for all of those who wear the uniform of this great nation. It's
which is very true, because the sailor's creed is, says almost the same thing, just replaces soldier with sailor.
13 lines tells us to be disciplined, physically and mentally tough, trained, proficient, and to look out for those who look out for us, to look out for one another. Donald Trump is supposed to be our service members' commander-in-chief. The very, very least we should expect of him is to epitomize the standards that we ask our troops to swear by, to live by. The very, very least we should expect of the commander-in-chief is to be as competent, disciplined, and professional as the men and women whose very lives hinge on his capacity to lead, on that competence and professionalism we expect to see in the White House. The creed makes clear that our troops will never quit, that they will never leave a fallen comrade behind, yet Cadet Bone Spurs is someone who will always quit. And every hour he orders our service members to remain in unnecessary growing danger, he is proving that Donald Trump does not give a damn about leaving a comrade or so many comrades behind. Every moment that Donald Trump leaves our heroes mired in the muck of this illegal war of choice in Iran, he is showing that he cares more about saving his own face than leading our troops. So I come to the floor today with a simple question. Our military men and women go out there every day and do their jobs, no matter the risk, all on Donald Trump's orders. So I ask you, Mr. President, why the hell can't you do your job too? Why can't you live up to the same level of proficiency as our troops? Look, I'm proud of every mission I completed in Iraq, but I would never, ever wish another endless, needless, unjustified war like the one I served in on anybody else. I wouldn't wish it on the heroes who are packing up their rucks right now, knowing they may never touch American soil again. I wouldn't wish it on their families who are being forced to spend their days anxiously awaiting news from half a world away. And I wouldn't wish it on the American people who want their president to focus on bringing the costs down here at home, not starting new, expensive, taxpayer-funded wars continents away. But Trump either doesn't understand or he simply doesn't care about that. From the moment this conflict began, the president has tried to shroud his incompetence behind the valor of our service members.
And again, there's no greater crime, in my opinion, than hiding behind the valor of American service members. My brother lost 2 limbs in Afghanistan. Senator Duckworth lost her legs there. Enough is enough. I wouldn't wish that on anyone else either. On the battlefield, I took care of injuries that I never want anyone else to have to see. And yet, here we go again. When is enough enough? And at the same time, in my opinion, It's the incompetency of this regime that is allowing AI to make more decisions than humans. You know? And Gaza itself has revealed how these technologies have moved beyond merely supporting role, and they have now become embedded directly within the kill chain of the military. And, Gaza, Ukraine, Russia, and now Iran, those wars are not disconnected. They are all training grounds, testing grounds for this technology that, again, like I said, movie after movie have warned us that this is not a path we want to take. They practice killing overseas. They'll have no problem killing here in the U.S. That's the last thing we want is politicians having the power to use AI on American citizens. But as we all allow them to use our Ring cameras from our doors and around our house and at businesses, like I said, such as Lowe's and Home Depot, we're setting ourselves up to be policed by, governed by, and threatened by AI on levels that we've never dreamed of before, although we've mentioned them here tonight. Right? We've mentioned true local instances, national instances of AI telling people that, oh, it's okay, but this is an actual criminal when they're not. They identify people incorrectly and have them sent to jail. All right. Hey, Mike, great to see you on here. Good old buddy, Mike, a Marine, says, just ask Sarah Connor. Exactly. She's told us for years, warned us for years that this was coming. And we have refused to listen. But again, here we have a courageous leader in Tammy Duckworth warning us about incompetent leadership. And incompetent leaders love a system that will not give them pushback. They're already firing anyone who gives them pushback, but AI will not give them pushback. And that's why right now, Whiskey Pete Kegsbreath is at war with Anthropic and Claude. Because Anthropic, the makers of Anthropic, refuse to allow their product to be used for anti-democracy means. And they're saying, hey, that's what they want at the Pentagon.
When asked to justify his illegal actions, Donald Trump's tried to hide his cowardice behind our heroes' courage. He's tried to act as if questioning why we're at war is the same as questioning the skill and bravery of our troops themselves. It isn't. And I'm here to call bullshit on the President of the United States. Because
so there we go. She's got the cojones to do what hardly anyone else will do in DC. So more power to her. And the land of Lincoln, Illinois, Lincoln would be very proud to see a leader like this coming out of his third home state, since he was born here in Kentucky, raised in Indiana, and led his adult life in Illinois before he headed off to greatness in DC as our commander-in-chief. All right, y'all. I hope giving you something to really think about tonight. Mike's so right. Come with me if you want to live. Yep, absolutely. Come with us. Let's be rational if we want to live. So, in the name of freedom, I just call on us all to come together. Again, it's not about left wing, it's not about right wing, it's about justice wing. We can't have any more two-tiered justice systems, one for the Epstein elites and one for the rest of us. We've got to bring it down. And that's right, Mike says, AI doesn't bleed, but boy, it won't mind making us bleed. So y'all, united we stand, divided we fall is Kentucky's motto, but it's actually an extreme way of life. And this way of life doesn't let us be divided in a consequential divide of left and right. It recognizes no matter what our political parties are, what our ideologies are, the main ideology is that of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if you're not standing up for that, you're standing up for the Epstein class. So I call on you, please vote for me for Magistrate District 3 here in Hardin County. Like and subscribe to the channel so we can get more of this message out. And love your neighbor as yourself, because we know we are our brother's keeper, we're our sister's keeper. And if we keep that in mind, there's no way we can be divided, so there's no way we'll fall, as long as we keep that in mind. Remember those deployed overseas? Bless your corazón, which Mike could tell you means heart, and have a great rest of this evening. Keep your powder dry.
His